You needed to leave, not out of anger nor despair. There were no fights at home, no problems that anyone from the outside could see, but inside, everything was heavy. The tiredness accumulated in layers, like dust on furniture that no one touches anymore. The routine, always the same, was a song too repetitive for those who already knew the lyrics. And you knew, deep down, that if you continued in that same cycle for another week, something inside you would fade. So he decided to take the car. No maps, no driving apps, no specific destination, just road, gas, and time. It was the kind of silent escape that only those who have ever felt invisible can understand. The wheels slid along the road with that monotonous, comforting sound, and the world seemed to spin a little slower as the day grew darker. Little by little, the cities began to disappear. Gas stations became rarer, the signs became old, crooked, as if they hadn't been changed in decades. That's what you wanted, a place where time had forgotten to pass. On the horizon, a discreet entrance appeared on the side of the road. The sign was simple, rusty, with letters that had already lost their color, Motel Estrella de Serra. The name, though naive, had a strange echo. I didn't remember having passed by that place on previous trips. It didn't even appear on my GPS. But there was something comforting about the way it appeared effortlessly, as if it were there just for you. You entered. The courtyard was wide and dusty, surrounded by crooked trees that swayed slowly in the warm evening wind. There was no receptionist. Just a faded sign, a vending machine, and a rusty gate that swung open as you approached. It was as if the place had been waiting for someone for a long time, and now, finally, it had welcomed you. You drove slowly down the hallway of rooms. The lights were off, but there was power. Some of the windows were covered with dingy curtains, others with boards. Everything was very old, almost a capsule from the past. The rooms were numbered with small metal plaques, and something in you made you stop in front of door number 1.77, the lucky number, the number of restarts. The key was in the lock, and the door opened without any resistance, emitting only a tired creak. The room was simple. A double bed with a faded red bedspread, a lamp with a cracked glass shade, a round mirror hanging crookedly above a low dresser. The old carpet creaked beneath her feet, and the air had a faint scent of old wood mixed with something slightly floral, like a mixture of lavender and forgotten time. But it was peaceful, it was silent, and it was exactly what you needed. You dropped. Your suitcase in the corner, sat on the edge of the bed, and took a deep breath. The window only showed a part of the tall grass that surrounded the land, and above, a dark and clear sky full of stars that you hadn't seen in months. The kind of sky that only appears when there are no cities nearby. There was no television, no Wi-Fi. But it wasn't necessary. You wanted to disconnect, to remember what it was like to hear your own thoughts without interference. You got up, went to the small bathroom next door, washed your face with cold water, and then went back to bed with a long sigh, as if your shoulders were finally resting. And there, lying, he felt a strange calm. The kind of calm that comes not from the absence of sound, but from its presence, a silence so thick it seems to watch you back. The minutes passed slowly. You closed your eyes. The mattress creaked with every movement, but there was something nostalgic about that environment. The way the yellowish light from the lamp partially illuminated the faded wallpaper, the way the wind made the curtain wave slightly. It was like sleeping inside a memory. But then, something light, very light, caught his attention. A barely audible sound, like paper being crumpled, or maybe a page being turned. It wasn't loud, it wasn't constant, just an occasional sound coming from the wall next to the bed. You opened your eyes but didn't move. The sound stopped, Maybe it was a rat or some little wild animal behind the hollow wall. It was an old place, after all, and you weren't there to worry about any of that. Just to sleep. You let it go. You turned away, closed your eyes again, and gave in to the weariness of the road. But before he fell asleep completely, he heard the sound again. Clearer this time, as if someone was writing. The next morning you wake up slowly, without rushing. The sunlight enters through the crack in the curtains gently, painting golden lines on the faded sheets. For a few seconds, your body remains still, as if the bed is still holding you in one last embrace before delivering you back to the world. The morning air is cold, colder than you expected for the area. You sit up slowly, rubbing your eyes, and it takes you a while to remember where you are. Room 7, the old motel. The journey you decided to take without a route, without an explanation, just out of an impulse to escape. And then you remember the sound from the night before, that soft noise, like leaves being handled, like writing. You look at the wall next, to the bed. It's simple, old wallpaper with faded floral designs, but something there feels different. As if that wall held memories, as if it were not just a division between rooms, but rather a meeting point between what has been forgotten and what still insists on being remembered. You get up calmly. Wooden floor cracks beneath your feet. He goes to the small window and opens it, letting the outside air into the room. There is a smell of grass, dust, and humidity. The land around the motel is vast and uneven, surrounded by vegetation that appears to have grown unattended years ago. A few nearby trees cast long, silent shadows over the courtyard. Silence still reigns over the place, and now it seems thicker. There are no sounds from other guests, no noise from the administration. No cars pass by on the road. It's as if you are the only inhabitant of a small world forgotten by time. After getting ready, you decide to explore the motel a little more. The outer corridors are covered by low roofs supported by cracked concrete columns. Chunks of plaster are peeling from the walls, revealing ancient bricks beneath. Cobwebs are cluttered in the corners, and dry leaves have accumulated along the floor. You walk slowly, feeling the wind play with the hem of your shirt. The numbered rooms follow one another in silence. 5, 6, 8, 9. No sound, no movement. Some doors are locked, others are ajar, as if they had been left that way in a hurry, a long time ago. One of the windows has a broken glass, partially covered with yellowish tape. You notice there are no cameras, no emergency signs, no sign that the place has been inspected in the past few years, yet everything is functional. Strangely functional, the Yas. Motel office is closed. A "Be Right Back" sign hangs crookedly from the glass front desk. You peer inside. Old furniture, a bookshelf of papers, a rotary phone, a stationary fan. Dust covers everything. And yet, there's no filth of neglect. Just the kind of dust that collects in places where no one breathes anymore. You return to the room, curious. There is a quiet restlessness growing inside you, as if something is about to be revealed, but unhurried, as if the place itself is leading you at a very specific pace, its own. You decide to move the dresser away from the wall, the one next, to the bed where you heard the strange noise. It's heavy, but it glides slowly with a low creak. Behind it, the wallpaper is torn in one spot. And beneath the tear, you notice something else, a small crack between the bricks, dark and shallow, like an opening carefully made to hide something from prying eyes. You kneel before the crack. There is dust, yes, but there is also a small volume. Inside, carefully, you reach in and feel something soft and bound. An old leather object. You pull it out. It's a diary. The cover is darkened with age, with irregular marks that look like fingerprints from sweaty, forgotten hands. The leather is cracked at the edges, and a small metal clasp is broken. You open it. The first few pages are blank. Then, delicate handwritten lines appear, written in faded blue ink. The handwriting is feminine, round, slightly tilted to the right. The words are soft. The tone is intimate. And soon you realize that this is no ordinary diary. The author describes the same room you are in detail. She talks about the red bedspread, the crooked mirror, the sound of the wind at the window. But she also describes something else. She talks about the feeling of being watched, hearing sounds coming from the wall, waking up at night with the feeling that someone was writing to her. You close the diary slowly. You look around. Everything is as she described. Everything is still there, and for the first time, you wonder if that room chose you, or if she was the one who prepared it for you. You sit back down on the bed, holding the diary with both hands as if you were holding something delicate and ancient, which could fall apart with the slightest movement. The light coming through, the window is now brighter, revealing dust particles suspended in the air. They dance slowly, as if time itself had slowed down inside that room. The number 7 is still stuck to the door, outside. You saw it last night when you parked. And now, with your mind more alert, you realize how strangely that number resonates. It has always been your lucky number. Ever since you were a child. It has always been present in decisive moments. In exams, on birthdays, even on the license plate of your car. But you swear you don't remember looking closely at that door before you entered. It was as if you had been led to it, as if an invisible thread was gently pulling you to that exact point in space. It's a coincidence that seems small, but carries a weight, a kind of coincidence that seems to speak to you silently. You return to the diary. The pages, although old, are still firm. The letters are still well defined. The text begins with calm, almost banal descriptions. The author, whose name has not yet been revealed, describes her arrival at the motel. She says she needed peace, isolation, silence. You identify with her immediately, as if her words were a reflection of yours. But then, as you progress, through the lines, something changes. She begins to talk about the room more intensely. She writes that, from the very first few days, she felt as if the place had a personality of its own, a gentle but constant presence, something that observed her, not with malice, but with patient curiosity, as if the room wanted to understand who she was before revealing itself completely. The writing conveys calm. No panic, no horror. The woman seems fascinated, enchanted even. She mentions the sounds, the same ones you heard, describing them as paper whispers or murmurs of ink spreading. There is no fear, just a strange connection, a kind of silent acceptance. You close the diary for a moment, look around. The mirror hanging over the dresser sways slightly. But there is no wind. You stare at your reflection. Your face looks the same as always, but there is something in your eyes that was not there before. A trace of weariness mixed with a quiet restlessness. As if you know you are no longer alone, not just in the physical sense, but also on a deeper, more invisible level. Look back at the door number. 7, odd number, lonely number. You start to remember an old book that said that rooms with odd numbers are energetically different, that they attract certain frequencies, that in old hotels and motels, odd-numbered rooms were often avoided by the staff. Some said that they accumulated energy from lonely people, from those who passed through there carrying sadness, secrets, or unspoken intentions. Rooms like this, don't forget. You stand up and begin to examine the room more carefully. Not like a regular guest, but like someone trying to understand a mystery calmly and respectfully. The bed is old, yes, but solid. The quilt, though faded, is folded neatly at the edges, as if someone had straightened it shortly before your arrival. The bedside table has a drawer with a worn copy of a book of poems. You leaf through it. Several passages are highlighted in pencil, with dates written in the corner. 1981, 1993, 2007. The curtain is made of thick fabric, held together with old iron hooks, and behind it, on the window frame, there are marks, as if someone had spent hours there, their fingers pressing, against the wood, waiting, or watching. You return to the corner of the wall where you found the diary. You run your fingers through the now visible hole. There are still traces of dust at the bottom, but nothing more. It is as if that space had been prepared just to store the object that is now in your hands. You sit down again and continue reading. The woman describes dreams, vivid dreams in which she saw herself in the room. But the room was different. There were mirrors where there had been pictures, and pictures where there had been windows. The floor was stone. The ceiling had hooks. And someone was always watching her from afar, but never coming near. She woke up without fear, just curious. In a later passage, she writes, "I don't know if this place is magical or just too old, but sometimes I think it speaks to me, not with words, but with smells, with sounds, with details that change from one day to the next. I don't know who was here before me, but I feel like they're all still here, like this room is some kind of living memory." You read this sentence more than once. Living memory. Look at the mirror again, then at the bed, and you wonder, with the tranquility of someone who accepts the mystery, how many stories that room has already stored. How many people have sat exactly where you are? How many hands have leafed through that same diary? How many low voices have been heard without anyone to answer them? Outside, the sun continues to shine. But in here, time seems to have stopped completely. And you understand, silently, that this will not be just another place you pass through. No. This room will stay with you. Maybe for days, maybe forever. The afternoon passes slowly, like a warm river, and you almost forget about the world outside. The sound of cars, the rush of clocks, the buzzing of cell phones, everything has become distant. Here, time flows at a different pace. There is a strange, almost sleepy tranquility, as if the environment itself were breathing along with you. You spend the rest of the day in your room, not out of fear nor laziness, but because there is something about this place that holds you, weakly, like invisible hands that just touch your shoulder and say softly, "Stay a little longer." You read a few more pages of the diary, make mental notes, notice the little details, the crack in the wall behind the lamp, the oval stain on the ceiling, the way the mirror seems to fog up on its own, even when the room is dry. Every object seems to have been in its right place for a long time, and everyone seems to know you're here. Late in the afternoon, you fall asleep for a few minutes, sitting up in bed, your journal resting on your lap. When you wake up, it's already night. The room is dark, except for the dim light from the lamp in the corner. The air feels thicker now, not stuffy, just fuller, like it's busier. You get up, wash your face in the bathroom sink, and go back to bed. The silence is so deep you can hear yourself blinking. But then, like a whisper piercing the stillness, the sound returns. The same sound as the night before. Low, delicate, persistent, coming from the wall. You turn slowly, trying to understand exactly where it comes from. You put your ear close to the wall next to the headboard, your heart still calm, your breathing at a controlled pace. And there it is, loss, loss, as if a fingernail was lightly scratching the plaster from the inside. Or as if someone were writing with their fingertips on thick paper. You don't feel afraid. There's a slight thrill, yes, but it's more like an electricity of anticipation. That feeling you get when you know something important is about to happen, and you don't want to get in the way. You put your ear even closer. The sound stops. You wait. Then it comes back again. Now more continuous. Will. As if a pencil were dragging words in the dark. You back away slowly. The hairs on your arms are standing on end, but your face remains calm. Something inside you, perhaps part of the same restlessness that brought you here, knows that you are not in danger, not yet. You look at the diary on the bed, and in an almost childish impulse, you open it back up, as if the pages might offer some answer. And what you see makes your body freeze for an instant. The last sentence you read before falling asleep wasn't there before. Now there's another line, one you don't remember reading or seeing. He hears me now too. From the other side of the wall. The font is the same as on the previous pages, but the paint looks fresher. There is a faint, still damp glow under the dim lamplight. You run your finger over the sentence. The ink smudges your fingertips. It's recent. Someone wrote this after you fell asleep. Your body reacts with a slight chill running down your spine, but your mind remains calm. In another place, this would be a reason to panic, to flee. But there, in that surreal calm, it seems part of a well-written script, as if everything were happening at the right time. You close the diary slowly and turn back to face the wall. Something there calls to you, not urgently, but constantly, like a sound that gently insists on your conscience. You decide to lie down on your side, facing it, just watching, just listening, and little by little the sound changes. He's not just a drag anymore. It turns into rhythm, like a code, a pattern. Spaced, almost musical touches. Lose. Lose. You start counting. You start marking the interval. And then you realize that the sound is not random. It has intention. It is trying to communicate. The pattern repeats for a few minutes, then stops completely. The silence returns, thicker than before. As if the air itself is waiting for your reaction. You stand there, motionless, eyes open, listening to the sound of your own breathing fill the void. Nothing else happens for long minutes. Until, coming from a higher corner of the wall, you hear something new. A voice. Low. Very low. More of a whisper than anything else. But it's a voice. And she says, her name. The pronunciation is accurate, slow, like someone trying to remember or learn. You don't answer. You just close your eyes slowly and let the shivers settle on your arms like a cold breeze that passes slowly. The room remains silent. The night advances, and the diary, now on the table, seems more present than ever. You slowly fall asleep, knowing that for the first time in a long time, you are exactly where you are supposed to be. Waking up there that next morning wasn't like waking up in a normal bedroom. It was like being gently brought back to reality by something watching you as you slept, but not in a threatening way. More like a silent caretaker, a presence that made sure you breathed peacefully until you opened your eyes again. The room was bathed in soft light, filtered by the heavy curtain. The dust still danced in the air, slow and enchanting, like small particles of memories suspended in time. You lay there for a few minutes, your eyes turned to the ceiling, listening to the silence. But now, that silence seemed filled. It wasn't empty. It was like the room breathed with you, as if he were alive. In his own way. You sat up in bed and stared at the wall, the same one the sounds had been coming from. No noise now, no whispers. But there was something new there, a small detail that hadn't been there the night before, or that you hadn't noticed, a slight relief under the wallpaper, well below the height of your head. You stood up and walked over. You touched the wall with your fingertips. The paper, which had seemed even and firm, gave slightly under the pressure. It was as if there was something hiding just beneath the surface. Driven by a calm, almost respectful curiosity, you ran your fingers along the edges of the relief. And then you realized it was a fold, as if the paper were covering a small opening. You stood back for a moment, watching in silence. There was no fear, but there was a kind of reverence, like someone who finds an old letter still sealed and hesitates before breaking the seal. It was like invading a sleeping secret. Still, you knew it would open. He picked up the car key from the nightstand, more for the metal blade than anything else. He used the rounded tip to lift the corner of the wallpaper. He gave in with surprising ease. It was old, dry, and had crumbled into small whitish flakes. Beneath him, the wall was not smooth. There was a hole between the bricks, a small cavity, as if someone had carefully removed some of the mortar to hide something inside. You knelt before the crack, and for a moment, you hesitated. The inside was dark, deep enough to hide something the size of a book. You reached inside carefully, your fingers finding only dust, until they touched something firm, yet soft. Leather. You pulled it out slowly. It was another notebook. Another diary, but different from the one you found before. This one was smaller, thinner, and much more worn. The cover was torn at one end. The original color was hard to identify. Maybe burgundy, maybe dark brown, now tinged by time with shades of rust and mildew. You opened it carefully. The pages were fragile, some with fingerprints, others stuck together from years of humidity. There were few words written, short sentences, notes taken in a hurry, as if the author or authoress only had a few moments. At a time to record something, you read silently, "He's here again tonight. He's closer. He whispers my name now, but he seems sad." Another page. "I tried to talk to him. I felt something behind the wall. It was cold, but not bad, like a memory that still doesn't want to go away." Further on, "The wall shook today, like it was breathing. I'm not sure if I'm going crazy or if I'm understanding too much." You close the diary carefully, and in that moment, you understand something you hadn't fully realized before. You're not the first to go through this. Someone, maybe more than one person, has been there before, and they all left traces, small pieces of a bigger story, a story that extends across the walls, across objects, across the nighttime dreams that are born between those four walls. You look back at the hole. You put your hand inside again. Nothing more. Just fine dust and small fragments of disintegrated paper. You place the new diary on the dresser next to the other one. 2 volumes, 2 fragments of memory, and you feel, calmly, without a jolt, that this is just the beginning. Outside, the sky is cloudy. The day looks grayer, but not rainy. A type of mood that fits perfectly with what you feel right now. A mix of contemplation and serene restlessness. As if things were falling into place, but still in no rush to reveal themselves completely. You open the window, breathing in the outside air. It carries a faint scent of damp wood and trampled grass. You observe the grounds for a while, your eyes wandering, until you notice something curious. On one of the motel's external walls, in the back, there is a dark mark. A stain, perhaps. But the shape is strange. It resembles a human figure, like a blurred silhouette. She's facing away, facing the bush. You blink. The image is still there, but it doesn't move. You don't feel fear. Just a growing certainty that that place doesn't hold ghosts, keeps echoes. And every new detail you discover feels like a note of an old song being played again, just for you. You spend almost the entire afternoon inside your room, and although anyone else might feel trapped there, you don't mind. On the contrary, you feel welcomed. There's no rush, no obligations. Just you, the silence, and the company of objects that seem to remind you of stories that haven't yet been fully told. On the dresser now rest 2 diaries. One, with a firm cover and darkened leather, more complete. Another, smaller, fragile, as if it had been through something harder than time. Both seemed to pulse under the soft light of the lampshade, as if they were breathing, as if they were sharing wordless memories with each other. You choose the oldest, thickest leather journal. It's exactly as you found it. The cover is covered, in small circular stains, old fingerprints, as if someone had leafed through it with damp, trembling hands. The side seams are worn, some parts are loose, but the pages, they're still holding together. It's curious how time seems to have passed selectively in there. You sit back down on the edge of the bed, the diary on your lap, and begin to read more carefully. The first pages, which at first reading seemed merely descriptive, now reveal a different intimacy, perhaps because of what you discovered in the hole in the wall, or perhaps because you are now more attentive to what is not said. The woman who wrote that, still unnamed, describes the room, the motel, and the sensations in great detail. And there's something in the passages that suggests she also got there running from something, not an immediate danger, but something more subtle, a tiredness, a loss. Perhaps the desire to forget or to be forgotten. In one of the excerpts she writes, "Here, I feel like I've left my life outside. Not because I want to run away, but because it no longer belongs to me like it used to. This place, this room, has a strange way of keeping me in the present, even when everything else seems like an echo of the past." The words touch you deeply, as if she were writing to you, not to herself, as if that diary were more than a record. It was an invitation. The reading continues smoothly, but the content gradually becomes more intimate. She begins to recount dreams, repeated dreams. In all of them, she is inside the room, but it is different. The wallpaper changes. The lamplight pulses like a candle. There are voices behind the wall. And, in all of the dreams, one feeling. She is not alone, but she is not accompanied either. It's something in between, something that is waiting. She describes the same sound you heard. "The first few nights, I thought it was the wind. Then I thought it was rats. But no, the sound is very rhythmic, very human, as if someone were writing at the same time as me, as if, on the other side of the wall, another person were telling the same story with different words." You close the diary for a moment and take a deep breath. The idea that someone was writing on the other side of the wall, in sync, sounds absurd and fascinating at the same time. As if 2 realities were being told in parallel, separated only by a few centimeters of plaster and silence. You touch the wall, free, solid, but now she seems less ordinary. You look at her as if you were looking into a mirror, an opaque mirror, which does not return the image, but keeps the reflection of something that has already passed, or something that is yet to come. Return to the diary. Further on, the writing changes. The lyrics remain elegant, but the pace accelerates. The sentences are shorter, as if the author was writing in a hurry or under pressure. "He came tonight. He didn't see me, but he felt me. I know he felt me. I heard his footsteps outside the room. Slowly he passed each door and stopped in front of mine. He didn't knock. He didn't come in. But he breathed. He breathed like someone who misses me." You read this passage more than once. He, but who? There are no names, no faces. Just this silent, recurring figure that seems to be part of the structure of the place, like a former resident who never left. Someone who doesn't scare, but who waits. And then on a later page, near the end, she writes, "Today I hid this diary, behind the dresser, behind the wall. I feel like my story doesn't end here, but I need to let it rest for a while. Maybe one day someone will find it. And maybe when they read these words, they will feel the same way I felt. Maybe they will hear the same sounds, see the same figures, write the same sentences with different handwriting. You freeze for a moment, look around. The room is the same. But now you understand. She wrote to you, not you as a person, but you as a figure who would come later. You as the one who would enter room 7 seeking silence. You as the one who would hear the sounds. You as the one who would see the silhouette on the wall at the back of the land. And in that moment, everything seems to make sense. Not as a logical explanation, but as an acceptance. You know that woman was there, and that she wasn't the only one. This room holds stories, and now start saving yours too. You close the diary with respect, not with fear, not with urgency. Only with the calm of someone who realizes that silence can, indeed, contain voices, and that some walls do not separate. They connect. Night descends again on the old motel like a heavy velvet curtain. Sunlight slowly escapes through the cracks between the trees, tinting the sky with shades of gray and copper. You don't turn on the light in the room right away. There's something comforting about the partial darkness, the twilight that streams in through the window and colors everything with a soft melancholy. You sit on the edge of the bed, in front of the little table, with the two diaries side by side, like two reliquaries, two ancient hearts still beating. Both carry voices, both carry silences, and you now feel like you are part of the dialogue. So, choose one of them, the most robust one. Open it to the first few pages. Read slowly, like someone listening to a song for the first time, paying attention to the details, the intervals, the rhythm. And what you find there are not just stories. They are confessions in the form of a silent outburst. The woman who wrote it, whose identity remains unnamed, has a calm voice, almost resigned. She does not write as someone who wants to be read. She writes as someone who needs to exist, as someone who fears that, without recording her feelings, her emotions will dissolve in time. The first page with words says, "I arrived. Today. There was no one at the reception. I took the key hanging on the glass door. It was as if the place knew me before it even saw me. You feel a slight chill, because yes. It was like that with you too. The key was already there. The reception was deserted. The air was still but welcoming. Room number 7 seemed to have been chosen by someone who knew that sooner or later you would arrive. You continue, reading, turning the pages carefully. The ink is faded in places, but still visible. The paragraphs are short and spaced out. In one of them, she describes the moment she first lay down on the bed in the room. Exactly where you are now, Ika. Mattress creaks. The pillow smells like old lavender. And yet, I feel at home. A kind of home that requires no explanation, just presence. You smile, almost without realizing it. That sums up what you've felt since you arrived. It's not a traditional comfort. It's deeper, like a feeling of return to a place that was never yours, but that recognizes you. She continues, and on another page writes, I tried to sleep, but there was something. Not a sound, a feeling, like a memory, was sitting in the chair next to the bed, patiently waiting for me to close my eyes. You look around. There is no armchair in the room. Just the bed, the dresser, the small table, and the crooked mirror. But when you look at a corner of the wall close to the floor, you imagine, and for a brief moment, you almost see, the silhouette of a chair that may have once been there. Perhaps years ago. Perhaps it still is. In another layer of time, her words flow gently. She writes about the sound of the night, about the branches that tap on the window like anxious fingers, about the feeling that the room shrinks slightly when she closes her eyes. And it grows again. At dawn. You turn another page and find something curious, an isolated excerpt, written in a firmer hand. The room doesn't want to scare me. It wants to be remembered. You repeat this mentally. It's not a warning. It's almost a request. As if the space around you was tired of being forgotten, of seeing guests coming and going without noticing the details, without feeling the stories suspended in the air. But you feel it, and maybe that's why it's there. Further on, the author begins to describe the sound of the wall. It feels like a pencil gliding over paper, always at nightfall, never during the day. And it's curious because it feels in sync with what I'm writing, as if on the other side, someone were telling the same story from another perspective. You press your hand against the wall again. It's cold, just like before, but there is a subtle vibration. It's not sound, it's presence. And then she writes something even more disconcerting. Yesterday, I thought about writing my name, but something stopped me. A strange instinct, as if the diary should remain impersonal, as if the story were bigger than me. You stop for a moment. Try to remember if you saw her signature at any point. There is none. No clue who she was. And that's when you realize the strangeness and the beauty of it all. You don't need to know her name. You already know her, by the words, by the cadence, by the silences between the sentences. She is someone like you, someone who arrived, stayed, and listened, and maybe it never really left. The night outside deepens. The sky darkens. You haven't turned on any lights yet, except for the small lamp beside the bed, which now casts soft shadows on the walls, like slow waves. You close the diary for now. Breathe. Only listening is allowed. The sound from the wall did not return. But there is something else. A whisper so light you almost think you imagined it. It doesn't come from the wall. It comes from the mirror. You look at him. The surface is opaque, as if breathing fog, and for a moment, it feels like there's something there, not a face, not an image, just an idea, that you are being watched carefully and accompanied calmly. You don't feel fear, only the lightness of those who, even in the midst of the unknown, know you are not alone. The night in room 7 felt longer than any other night you had ever lived, but not out of tiredness, not even because of insomnia. It's as if time had decided to stretch out there, as if it wanted each minute to last a little longer so that you could notice all the details that would previously have gone unnoticed. You remain sitting on the bed. The closed diary rests on your lap, and the light from the lamp gives off that soft, almost liquid yellow glow. The shadows it casts on the walls seem to move, but so subtly that you're not sure if it's real or just an illusion of the light. Or your mind. The mirror is still there, crooked, as it always has been. But now, there's something different about the way it reflects the room. There's no one else there, you know that. Yet you feel as if your movements aren't alone in the glass. As if the reflected image has a life of its own, the sensation is light, as gentle as a touch on the back of your hand, and yet undeniable. You stand up slowly, driven by an almost childlike curiosity, and walk over to the mirror. The wooden floor creaks beneath your feet, but even that sound sounds different at night, deeper, slower, as if it echoed inwards, not outwards. As you approach the mirror, you hesitate for a moment. There is nothing extraordinary reflected. The room is there, as it is behind you. But the image looks a little bit delayed, not visibly. But you feel that the reflex takes a second longer than it should to follow your movements, as if he was thinking before copying. You reach out your hand. Don't touch the glass. Just hold it close enough to see your fingers almost touch the surface. And, for a second, just a second, You swear you saw other fingers as close to yours as those of the reflection, but thinner, paler, as if they belonged to someone else, someone on the other side of the mirror, someone who also reached out. At the same time, you step back, not afraid, but with the care of someone who recognizes a limit. He returns to bed. He sits down again, feeling the mattress give way under his weight. And that's when she comes back. The feeling of being watched. But not as a target, not like someone who is watched with bad intentions. It's something deeper, more intimate, as if a memory was looking back at you, as if something ancient, trapped inside for a long time, finally had someone to share its existence with. You close your eyes for a moment. Listen to the silence. And in that silence, there are layers. It's not emptiness. It's as if the air around you is filled with invisible presences, suspended stories, unspoken thoughts, words never spoken. And now they float there, waiting. You open your eyes slowly, look at the ceiling, then to the wall, and then back to the mirror. Nothing has changed, and yet everything changed. There is a consciousness in the air. You walk to the window. You open it carefully. The night is clear. The sky is dark and wide. A silent blanket filled with distant stars. The grass around the motel sways slowly in the wind. You hear the rustling of leaves, the call of a cricket. And there, further in the background, among the twisted branches, you see the silhouette again. That same silhouette that looked like a stain on the outside wall. But now, she's not there anymore. She is a few steps ahead, close to the edge of the vegetation. Property of coasts. You can't see face, clothes, or color, but you know it's the same way, the same presence that appeared in other passages of the diaries. The one who breathes on the other side of the wall, the one I may have written with you. You don't feel panic. Don't be in a hurry to run. Just respect. Close the window carefully. Pull the curtain. Go back to bed. The feeling of being watched continues. But now you don't want her to go. It's like when we're home alone and we remember someone we love, and for a moment we feel as if that person is there with us, watching, smiling, silent. Maybe that's what you feel right now, a company that demands nothing, that only exists with you. Present. Live. Within space. You turn off the lamp. Lie down slowly. The mattress creaks, the blanket gives off an old smell. The room closes in on itself in peaceful darkness. And in the darkness, where nothing moves, where everything rests, you close your eyes. With the strange and comforting certainty that you are being watched, not by someone who wants harm, but for a story that somehow recognizes you. And so, under the invisible watch of Room 7, you fall asleep. The morning arrives slowly, like a mist that slips under the door. No rush, no noise. You wake up to soft light coming through the gaps in the curtains. The room is cold, but not uncomfortable. It is a cold that lulls, that welcomes, the kind of temperature that makes us stay a few extra minutes under the covers, just to savor the slowness of waking up. Silence reigns supreme. You don't hear cars or voices, just the sound of the leaves outside rubbing against each other and the slight creaking of the wooden structure of the roof, as if the building was also stretching with you. As he sits up in bed, his eyes go straight to the journals on the dresser. They're still there, real estate, but not inert. It's curious how, as the days went by, they began to seem like more than just objects. They have presence, as if they know when you touch them, as if they were watching you read. You pick up the thickest one, the first one you found, and open it to the last few pages you read. You leaf through it carefully, noticing the details of the writing. There is something different about this morning. You notice that the author's handwriting begins to change, not abruptly, but like a slow tiredness that runs through the letters. The words begin to lose their firmness. Sentences become shorter and the feeling of lucidity begins to waver. On one of the pages she writes, "Today I woke up before the sound. The silence was so deep that I thought I had disappeared, but when I looked in the mirror, it smiled." You read this sentence more than once. The mirror smiled. It's an almost poetic image, but there, in that context, is a delicate and strange suggestion that the boundaries between the visible and the invisible were beginning to dissolve for her. On the next page, the letter trembles. I'm not sure if I'm writing what I think, or if I'm just transcribing what someone wants me to write. Sometimes I feel like my hand moves before my thought. You feel a gentle chill run down your arms. It's not fear, it's identification, because deep down, you've also felt something similar. Sometimes when writing, when remembering, when talking to yourself, there is a moment when the words seem to come from a place you have no control over, as if they were just passing by you, and then the next pages of the diary are different. They do not follow the same pattern as the previous ones. Some have just one sentence, others unfinished sections. There are scribbles in the margins, circular line drawings, arrows, finger marks, and on one of the sheets, a small burnt hole, as if a cigarette had been left there too long. You read, "The wall called to me tonight. The voice didn't come from outside. It came from inside my head, but I know it was born there, between the bricks." Another page, with even more unstable handwriting. I tried to ignore it, but the noise stopped, and the silence is worse. You close your eyes for a moment, take a deep breath. Everything you've read so far seems to form a circle. The arrival, the welcome, the calm. I'm about, the presence, and now the beginning of the confusion. You understand that the woman who wrote those words was going through something that went beyond loneliness. She was slowly being pulled into space, not just physical space, but emotional space of the room. And the more he connected with it, the more fragile his identity seemed to become. As if the room didn't just want her to hear it, but what, she became part of him. You keep reading. But then, you find a torn-out page, a blank space, between two passages. The binding is torn there. There are traces of the sheet, marks of the glue, but the page is gone. You turn to the next one, and what you find no longer looks like a diary. It's as if the author had started writing in flow, without thinking, non-stop. Phrases like, "How many days have I been here? The lamplight is the only atmosphere I know. The door doesn't lock anymore. Or maybe it never locked. Someone calls me by a name I never said." He smiled in the mirror again. The word he appears several times, but never with description, never with a face. He is a presence, an echo, an inhabitant of time. And then the text stops. Suddenly. The last sentence written in blue pen is incomplete. "Today I finally understood what he," and nothing more. You turn the page. It's blank. The next three too. You go back to that sentence, touch the point where it ends, and you ask yourself, what did she understand, and why didn't you finish writing? But the answer is not there. You notice the silence in the room. Everything remains the same. The wood creaking lightly, the gray light filtered through the curtains, the sound of the wind rustling the leaves outside. But inside, you. Something has changed. You now feel that the room is not just a physical space. It is a meeting point, a place where stories intersect, even when words can no longer reach them. You close the diary with respect, and for the first time, he asks in a low voice, "Are you there?" Don't wait for an answer, but on the other side of the wall, the sound returns. Live. This. Lose. 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 The afternoon dissolves into silence. Outside, the sky turns into a homogeneous blanket of light gray. No sun, no rain, just that soft, opaque light that seems to hold everything suspended, as if time once again had decided to pause. You stay in the room. No boredom, no anxiety. The world outside already seems so distant that you start to forget. It exists. You don't look at the clock anymore. He hasn't checked his cell phone in hours. It's as if, inside, the only time that matters is what passes between one breath and the next. And then, as he sits on the edge of his bed, thinking about the diary, the sound coming from the wall, the page that was never finished, you feel it. Don't see, don't listen, but feel. Someone is in the room with you. It's not a feeling of danger, nor the irrational dread of a midnight scare. It's more like when we feel like someone is watching us from the other room, or like the breeze that comes through the window when no one has opened it. You don't move, no need. The presence does not approach. It does not impose itself. She just this, as if she were sitting on the floor in some corner of the room, watching patiently, like a silent old friend, content to just exist by your side. You take a deep breath, close your eyes. Listen to the sound of your own body, your calm heart, the air entering your nostrils, the light hum of silence that fills everything around you. And then, for the first time, you don't wonder, who is it, this presence? You accepts it. And with that acceptance, something changes. You feel a slight shift in the mattress, as if someone very light had sat down on the other end of the bed. There is no weight. There is no way. Just the subtle sound of fabric giving way, and a slight change in air distribution. You open your eyes. The room is the same, everything in place. The motionless curtain, the still mirror, the dresser, the diary, the lamp, all motionless. But you know she's there, she or he or that. The presence, the Kai. Same one described so many times in the diaries. The same one the author felt when writing. The same one that, perhaps, was already there long before any of you. You turn your face slowly. Look at the corner of the room, near the bathroom door. There is no one. And yet, there is something. A slight tremor in the air, a kind of subtle density that settles in without you seeing it. And then, as a reflex, you start talking. In a low voice, without thinking. I heard you. The words come out naturally, almost without emotion. Just recognition. You are surprised by your own voice. She sounds firm, no fear, no requirement. You say more, I read everything. I felt everything. I'm here now. And with those words, something dissolves in the air, a slight change in temperature. Like when we open a window that has been closed for a long time. And for the first time, I am returns, but not from the wall. This time, the sound comes from the dresser. You stand up delicately. You walk slowly, without making any noise, as if you wanted to keep the charm intact. The wooden floor continues to creak, but gently, as if it accepts your presence there. On the dresser, the two diaries remain closed. But the oldest one has its cover slightly raised, as if it had been recently leafed through, as if it had, if moved. You touch the leather with your fingertips. Warm. The material, previously cold and dry, now appears to have absorbed heat. From where? From who? You. Open it. And there, on the page where everything had stopped before, that unfinished sentence. There is now something new. A single word, written with the same letter, but slightly tilted. Firmer, more present. I understand. You read, and you feel your heart slow down even more, as if he had been waiting for that answer without knowing. The author finished the sentence. Even after so long, even after it disappeared, even after you arrived. She finished the sentence with, You smile. It's a small, restrained smile, but genuine. Look around. The room is silent. The presence is not gone. But now, she seems to have backed off a bit, as if she was satisfied, as if, in that small gesture, in that touch of a letter on the forgotten page, something had been accomplished. You go back to bed. Lie down calmly, and for the first time, feel the mattress. Accommodate two bodies, one yours, another invisible, but just as real. You close your eyes. The darkness that comes is not empty. It is inhabited, filled with a story that is now yours, and for a company that perhaps never left. The next morning, you wake up before light. You don't know what time it is. You don't feel the need to know. The darkness in the room is still thick, but it's not uncomfortable. It's the kind of darkness that lulls you, that protects you, like a silent blanket spread over everything. You feel your body sink into the mattress, your muscles relaxed, your thoughts still half suspended between the world of dreams and the world of wakefulness. You take a deep breath, and you know it's still there, not just you. A presence, also. She doesn't sleep, you notice, but it doesn't scare either. She just watches. Maybe time, maybe history, maybe you. You stand up slowly. The sheets slide slowly, over your skin, as if they know not to make a sound. The lamp is still off, but a thin strip of blue light begins to creep through the base of the curtain. You walk to the window. You open the curtain a little, just enough to see the world outside. The motel's landscape remains still. The trees sway silently, and the sky announces the birth of a new day with that diffuse light that seems to be made of fog. And then you see. On the inside of the window glass, there is brands, finger marks, 5, aligned, as if someone had pressed their hand against the glass. On the other side, within. But you didn't touch it, you are sure. The night before, he didn't go near that window, and much less with an open hand, flat against the glass. You look more closely. The marks do not appear to be recent. There is moisture, accumulated on the edges of the fingers, as if that hand had remained there for a while, silent, patient, observing the world outside. You reach out your own hand and bring it closer. The marks are smaller than yours, thinner, more delicate, feminine. Perhaps, you wonder, could it be the woman in the diary? But how? How can marks remain there, like ghost prints, days or decades after someone is gone? Or maybe she never really left. You feel goosebumps run down your arms, but still, remain calm, because little by little you are understanding. This room doesn't want you to discover everything at once. He wants you, feel the memory in things, feel the presence in the objects, feel the history in invisible gestures. You gently close the curtain, go back to bed. But something catches your eye. On the bay floor near the door is an object you haven't seen before. Small, dark, a button. You pick it up. It's a coat button, old-fashioned, made of light metal with an embossed pattern. The shape looks familiar. You turn the button between your fingers, watching the morning light reflect off its surface. Where did it come from? You crouch down. You look around at the ground. There is no sign of clothing, no bag, no loose stitching, just the button. Alone, as if it had fallen out of a souvenir. You place it on the dresser, next to the diaries, and he notices something even stranger. The smaller diary is open. You're pretty sure you left it closed. But now, it lies wide open, pages facing up, as if it had been read, or flipped through, or used. You come closer. Look calmly. The open page contains only 2 sentences, written more irregularly than the others, as if the author were nervous, or in a hurry. He doesn't just watch me at night anymore. Now he is here, even in the daytime. You read it once, then another, and then look around. Daylight begins to gain strength, but inside the room, everything remains in darkness. Time continues to slow down. The air still carries that soft density that envelops the senses. And suddenly, you realize something that was there all along. It's not you who's awake in the room. It is the room that is awake with you and what he observes. It's not just your body. He observes your mind, your thoughts, your rhythm, and it seems to react to every step you take toward understanding. You close the smaller diary with delicacy, like someone closing their eyes while they rest. Walk to the mirror. Look at the reflection, all the same. But there is a shadow right in the corner, something that might just be the poorly lit frame, or maybe be someone there, stopped, watching with you. On the other side of the image, you decide not to ask questions. Not today, not yet. Go back to bed. Sit down. Take the knob from the dresser and hold it like a charm. And think. How many guests have felt this way? How many found the diaries? How many noticed the fingers on the glass, the sounds on the wall, the unfinished sentences, and how many left their own brands for the next ones? Maybe this room is a repository, not of bodies, but of presences, of silences, of souls that for some reason refused to leave and stayed, not to scare. But Forb remembered. You lie down, button still in hand, eyes fixed on the ceiling, and think, will one day someone find their signs too? The morning advances slowly. You remain in the room as if it were an extension of your own body. You no longer look at it as a strange or temporary place. It is no longer a transit shelter. It is a mirror of what you carry inside, even if you don't yet understand exactly what. You stand up and walk around the room with slow steps. Lean your hands against the wall. Look at the cracks, the stains. Every detail seems to contain something that remained. A gesture. Thought. A presence that, for some reason, refused to disappear. You approach the dresser, where the two diaries rest. But this time, before you open them, you notice something you had ignored until now. A layer. The leather on the older journal is thick, worn and dry in some areas. But as the sunlight shines through the curtain more intensely, you notice something strange, something I hadn't noticed in the previous days. At the bottom right of the cover, there is a soft relief, almost invisible, as if a symbol had been pressed there, with time and patience, until it became part of the leather. You run your fingers over it, feel the different texture. It's not smooth, it is subtly wrinkled. The design is simple. A circular figure with 3 lines meeting in the center, almost like a stylized flower or an ancient wax seal. You frown, puzzled. That doesn't look like part of the original design. It was done later, with intention, and suddenly you remember something you read as a child. Symbols printed in diaries, ancient, were often ways of identifying not the author, but the place where thoughts were born. As if the place, more than the person, were the true owner of the words. You look at the room with different eyes and understand. That symbol does not belong to the woman who wrote it. It is of the room. It is a mark left there as a signature, as a reminder that all the stories that pass through this place belong in some way to it, and that all the words written under this roof are connected somehow, by invisible threads, by silences sewn between the walls. You open the diary carefully. Look at the first page again. It looks the same. But now you notice that the symbol appears there too, minor, hand-drawn, in the lower left corner, almost like a permission stamp. You start flipping through the pages, looking for the same symbol, and find it at spaced intervals, on a page where she talks about the mirror, in another where he describes the wall whispering, and then on the sheet where he reports the first dream. And then something curious happens. As you turn a page near the end of the notebook, You find a note that you had previously overlooked, different from the others. The lyrics are the same, but the intonation is different. I don't know if I'm the first, I don't know if I'll be the last, but if you are reading this, know this, the room chose you too. You take a deep breath. This is not just any sentence, it's a recognition. As if the woman knew that one day someone, maybe you, would find it all. And I would understand, little by little, that being there was no coincidence. You close the diary, slowly. Place the palm of your hand on the cover. Feel the symbol under your fingers. He looks warmer now, as it is pressed. Outside, the wind blows harder. The trees sway. The leaves lightly scratch the outer wall, and then you feel something behind. You, not a touch, not a breath, but an attention. You turn around slowly, look in the mirror, then to the dark corner near the bathroom. Nothing moves. More something there watches you with love, with familiarity, as if you were fulfilling a role. And maybe it is. Perhaps every guest who passes through room 7 receive not just a place to rest, but a silent mission to hear what was forgotten, to feel what was not said, to remember of what does not yet have a name. You hold the newest diary in your hands, and you ask yourself, is it your turn to write? The afternoon stretches out in silence, as if the light hesitates to say goodbye. You remain inside the room, lulled by an increasingly clear sensation that time there bends and does not run. Everything pulses slowly. O.R. The wood, the shadows. You still hold the diary in your hands, but it doesn't open right away. You take a deep breath, look at the symbol on the cover, feel its weight, its texture, and he decides, for the first time, to speak to him out loud. What do you want me to see? The question echoes in space. It doesn't come back as sound, but it seems to create a ripple in the air, an almost imperceptible movement, like when a breeze passes through a closed curtain, causing the fabric to move slightly without opening. Yu Fei. Sit down, place the diary on your lap, and, carefully, he opens it. The pages remain the same. But now, something changes. You start reading. And you realize that the way the sentences come to you is different. They are no longer just written words. They have intonation. They have rhythm. He has voice. And it's not your inner voice. It's a female voice, low, suave, with a slow cadence, like someone reading to someone who is almost falling asleep. You try to deny it. He thinks it might just be tiredness, imagination. But no. The voice continues. She reads with you, keeping up with your pace. As if it knew where you would pause, where you would look up, where you would think about going back and rereading. You close the diary suddenly. Silence. The room remains the same, but the silence now seems attentive, as if waiting for your decision. You breathe in slowly, feel the calm, steady beating of your heart, and he reopens the notebook, turning to the same page. Tonight I heard my own writing come to life. The sentence is there. Simple. Let go. You feel a slight shiver, not of fear, but of recognition. The voice returns. Reading just this line, in a sweet way, as if repeating something you should remember. Tonight I heard my own writing come to life. You look up, look in the mirror, for the lampshade, to the ceiling. Everything is still, but the atmosphere in the room changed. It's like he's allowing you to hear something that few others have heard. You keep reading, and with each new sentence, the voice follows. Sometimes it gets ahead of itself. Sometimes it waits for you to reach. She never imposes herself. Never press, just follow along. And at a certain point, the voice says something that is not written. You stop, return to the previous line, check word for word, but what she said isn't there. It was a whisper between sentences, as if she, the author, had decided to gently comment on what you were feeling. It was just a word. One single word. I went back. You close your eyes and feel. She is not an entity. It's not a ghost. It's a living memory. Someone who imprinted herself there with such force, with such a desire to be heard, that her voice remained, suspended in the fibers of the paper, in the cracks of the room, between the lines of the story. You place the diary on the bed, and you ask yourself, did everyone who came before hear it too? Or does the voice only manifest when someone is ready to listen to it? You speak again, this time, in a softer tone. Are you with me now? Silence. After, a rustling sound, the diary pages. Saw alone, not with violence, but gently. The breeze in the room remains absent. The window is closed. No wind. But even so, 2-3 pages turn until they stop at a blank one. There, in the center of the empty page, something appears. You watch, astonished. It's not paint, it's not graffiti. It's as if the paper, little by little, mark yourself, lines are slowly appearing, rounded lines. One point, a curve, and then a letter, then another, until a word is formed. Your name, carefully written, like someone who learns to write a memory with affection. You run your hand over the page. The surface is smooth. The paint is cold, as if it had just been written by invisible fingers. You say nothing. He just smiles, as if he recognizes an old gesture, and then, with an impulse that comes from your chest, you take a pen and write right below. One simple word. Try. And for an instant, everything in the room breathes with you. The pen is still in your hand. The diary rests on your lap with the gentle weight of an old conversation being resumed after years of silence. The white page, which now bears your name and the word, try. It seems warm, alive. There is something about that sheet that does not belong on ordinary paper, a kind of dense lightness, as if it were suspended between two worlds. You don't write anything anymore. Just watch. Just sit. And then he decides to close the diary, not in a hurry, but with the reverence of someone finishing an intimate ritual. The gesture is careful, slow, as if he were afraid of waking something that now rests peacefully inside. You lean back in bed and rest the 2 diaries on your chest, as if you could hear their hearts beating alongside yours. The room is silent, but it is not a silence of absence. It's a silence attentive. You close your eyes, does not sleep. It just plunges you into a state between the real and the invisible, where everything seems possible, but nothing seems urgent. For long minutes, perhaps, an hour, perhaps just a few seconds, you remain like this, until something subtle catches your attention. The sound of a page turning. You don't move immediately. The sound was clear, precise, like a leaf being folded lightly by invisible fingers. You open. Your eyes, the diaries are still on his chest. Closed, but when you touch the oldest one, something feels different. You open it, leaf through it carefully. Each page has familiar marks, notes already read. But then, there, right in the middle of the notebook, there is a leaf that wasn't there before. You are sure it is of another texture, thinner, whiter, more new. As if it had been placed there just now. As if it were still getting used to being part of the body of the book. You examine her. There is something written. There is. But not in the same handwriting as the author. Not even with yours. The handwriting is different. Serpentine, almost ritualistic. 3 sentences. Simple. Every story left silent. Rots. Every forgotten name screams. But he who listens becomes part of it. You feel a gentle chill run up your back. Not out of fear, of understanding. The page is not there to scare you. It is a statement, a sort of silent agreement between you and everything that came before. As if, by accepting too, listen, you had opened the door that separated memories from oblivion, and now you're in. You read it again, slowly. The last sentence echoes in your mind like a hidden melody. But he who listens becomes part of it. Part of what? From the place? From history? From the room? You don't know, but he also doesn't feel any urgency. To know, feel only the gentle weight of choice and the lightness of having accepted. You rest the diary on the bed. Get up, go to the window. The day is bright but overcast. The light from the sky seems sourceless, as if it comes not from the sun, but from something larger and more diffuse. You slowly open the window. Fresh air rushes in, and there, in the glass, you see one more mark. This time, 2 hands. Side by side, sharper, and turned inwards. You feel no alarm, feel company. You reach out your hands and bring them closer to the glass. The distance between your fingers and the ones there seems small, almost like a silent greeting, as if 2 souls, separated by decades, recognized each other and touched each other without haste for an instant outside of time. You go back to bed. Look at the new page in the diary. She's still there. The paint is still fresh, and next to the 3 sentences. Further down, almost at the edge of the page, a new line begins to form, slowly, letter by letter. You watch, without moving. The words emerge slowly, as if someone were writing inside you, through you, and the sentence that is formed now is an invitation. If you want to know what comes next, write with me. You remain still for a few seconds. Then he reaches for the pen, place the tip on the page, and he answers, "I'm ready." The paint dries quickly, and then the room goes quiet. Not with the silence of those who leave, but with the calm of someone who just arrived. If you wish, I can continue with the section 15. The final report, where the boundaries between the present and the past dissolve, and you begin to write your own part of history with the help of something or someone. That has always been there. The newly written sheet lies before you, still vibrating in silence, as if it had a pulse, as if each word drawn there continued to live, whispering softly things that you are not yet able to understand, but that, somehow, you already feel. Beside the page, the pen remains in your hand. She now feels too light, almost as if it belonged more to the diary than to you. As if it had always been there, waiting to be wielded, not to tell a story, but to continue one that has been written for a long time. You settle into bed, back against the headboard, the diary on her lap, the whole world reduced to 4 walls, a curtain, a mirror, and a piece of paper. You notice the sentence before you. If you want to know what comes next, write with me. And then you understand. You are not being asked to just read. You are being called to be active part of the memory that lives in that room. With your fingers still warm, you grip the pen tightly. Place the tip on the paper, and he writes slowly, letter by letter, as if he were talking to something or someone. Invisible and infinitely patient, I'm ready. You wait, no immediate response, no sound, just the usual silence of the place. But now, it's a different silence. It's a type of listening, a welcome. Then, almost without realizing it, you continue. My name may not matter, but my presence here. Yes, I arrived looking for nothing, and I found a place where time breathes slowly, a place where someone, long before me, decided to stay. You stop. The room remains calm, the still air. But there's something in the back of your mind, or maybe your skin, that starts to move, a memory that is not yours, a feeling that you weren't born with, but that now walks alongside you, inside your body. You write more. I feel like I'm being watched, but not judged. Being here doesn't weigh anything. She sustains. And then, without command, as if guided by another hand, the pen slides across the paper and completes, like I did with her. You stop. Eyes fixed on the sentence. The letter, it's not yours, but it appeared there, with the same paint, the same thickness, as if his hand had been borrowed for a moment. You don't feel fear, feel communion. The certainty that now you are not writing alone. You smile. The pen dances again on the paper. You don't think so much anymore. The words come by themselves. This story has no defined beginning, and I don't know if it will have an end, but I know it exists and that we are part of it. You turn the page, a new leaf. White, waiting. You prepare to continue. But as I rest the tip of the pen, another sentence is already there. Now you understand. You close your eyes, feel your body sink into the mattress. The room is calm, and for the first time, you realize the room is not haunted. He is remembered. He is vivid. He is written. You have not found a cursed place. You found a place preserved for those who before you refuse to be forgotten. You open your eyes, look in the mirror, and he looks different, still crooked, still dusty, but now here flecks something more. You see your own face, yes, but also see something else, the suggestion of a shape in the background, someone standing, property. No face, no defined contour, but there is no threat. There is only presence. You don't get scared. He just mumbles, I know you're there. The reflection remains, and for an instant, quick as a breath, the shape waves. You smile. No need to ask anything else. You return to the page. And he writes his last line of the day. If you read me now, remember, the room listens to you too. You close the diary, turn off the lamp, lie down under the blanket. Outside, night covers the world. Here inside, silence falls asleep with you. And before you give in to sleep, you listen, coming from inside the wall, the mirror, or inside you. Thanks. And then you sleep, with the body present and the soul written. You wake up in the middle of the night, but this time it's not fear that wakes him up. There is no scare. There is no rush of the heart, just the lightness of someone being called softly, like when an old friend says your name from across an open field. The room is dark, the lamp is off, the window closed, but there is no feeling of confinement. You know exactly where you are, and above all, know you are not alone. You lie there for a moment, eyes open in the dim light, and then he comes back. I'm about. That old sound, the sound that brought you here, the sound that days ago seemed strange, and that now sounds like a compliment. Lose, 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 but there is a difference. Before, the sound came from the wall. Now, about the whole room, as if it didn't have a single origin, as if it came from everywhere at once, or maybe from within time itself. You sit on the bed, take a deep breath, and listen. Lose, lose, lose. You begin to recognize a rhythm, not random, not chaotic, a pattern, simple. 3 short beats, then 2 more spaced out. Lose, 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 lose. You wait. The sound repeats. Lose, 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 lose. You close your eyes and, for the first time, he understands, is an answer. As if by writing in your diary, you had started a conversation. And now, someone responds with sounds, with touches, with knocks that speak more than words. You get out of bed calmly, bare feet on the cold floor. Walk to the wall where it all began, the headboard wall. Place your palm there. The surface is warm, almost pulsating. You whisper, as if you don't want to interrupt. but just participate. I'm listening. The sound stops. For long seconds, silence returns. A dense silence, heavy as the air before the rain, and then a single beat. Tap, slow, isolated, as a confirmation. You smile. There is no need for words. You step away from the wall. Go to the dresser. Open the diary. The pages still smell of fresh ink, as if the air in the room impregnated each leaf with an aroma of old memories and new promises. You turn to the blank page you left prepared, and he starts writing. The sipo sound came back, but now he doesn't ask. He answers. You wait. Just look at the page. Nothing moves, but you feel it. The presence is there, looking over your shoulder, gently, patiently, like an invisible teacher or an attentive reader. You continue. We may never see each other's faces, but it doesn't matter. We already recognize each other. And then, as before, a new line forms just below, without you writing it. The letter is a little more inclined, a little narrower, but still clear. The name matters less than the shared silence. You close your eyes for a moment. Yes, that's exactly it. Inside, the names disappear, the faces fade. But the exchange remains, the dialogue even without sound, the gesture even without a hand. You write once more. The wall does not separate, she translates. And in that moment, as a loving response, the sound echoes through the room again. But this time, not with beats. It's a lighter sound, like paper being turned slowly, like a leaf whispering against another leaf, like the sound of a diary being read. The other side. You hold the diary more firmly. The pen is ready. The peaceful heart. The conversation is happening, not like before. Now, she is mutual. You write one last sentence, feeling the presence settle beside you, like a shadow sitting on the ground or a memory lying near the door. I'm not listening to myself anymore. And as I write this, a sentence appears immediately below, written in barely perceptible ink, like a whisper in the margin. And I was never writing alone. You close the diary, turn off the thought, lie down. Now the sounds of the night do not disturb, they accompany. You sleep with your chest calm, your eyes heavy, and the gentle certainty that the conversation continues even when the eyes close. The next morning, the sky dawns clear. The first thing you notice when you open your eyes is the sound of birds. Low, spread, as if they sang not to announce the day, but to remind us that it still exists. You slowly sit up in bed. The back is straight, hands resting on knees. The room is calm. Like always, but now it takes on another tone. It's not just a space with memories. It is a space that responds. You look at the dresser. The diary is still there, closed. The cover is darkened and marked by time. But now beside him lies a loose piece of paper. You get up, pick up the paper gently. He doesn't remember leaving that sheet there, but she's there, with your handwriting, or at least with something very similar with your handwriting. The written sentence is simple. If you want to forget, burn it. But if it burns, what remains in you cannot be erased. You read the sentence several times. There's something about her that gives you chills, not by the threat, but by the quiet truth that carries. It's a choice. You hold the paper between your fingers. He is different, thicker, oldest. It has a light scent of burnt wood and lavender. You walk to the window, open it carefully. Outside, the day breathes with the wind. The trees sway, dust dances in the air. You hold the paper above the ashtray you found days ago on the nightstand. Take the lighter you used to light candles and bring the flame closer. The tip of the paper darkens. Roll up, but does not catch fire. You try again, heats for longer, but nothing. The leaf twists slightly at the edges, as if reacting to the intention, but does not burn. You take the sheet to the bathroom. Try to tear it. The texture resists. You force. She bends. Bend some more, but it doesn't tear, and you understand. She wasn't made to disappear, not of the world, and much less from you. You return to the room, sit down, and calmly write on the back of the sheet, "If you don't want to leave, Ali." Stay too. As you finish writing, you feel a subtle shiver. Not from the outside in, but of inside out, as if something deep inside you opened up and let out a memory that was never lived, but what has always been there. You look around. The mirror reflects the room, as always. But now, your image is clearer, more focused. As if, by accepting the presence, you had found yours. You watch his face for a long time, and then for the first time, he realizes you are not the same as you were when you arrived. The man, or woman, who entered this room days ago, carrying haste, noise, and fatigue, got stuck somewhere along the way, maybe in the first few pages, maybe at the first whisper, or the first handprint on the glass. What exists now is someone who has learned to hear what is not said, a feel what is not shown, a remember what you never lived. You go back to bed, place the sheet of paper next to the diary, and for the first time, he realizes that it doesn't matter if the outside world understands him. Some stories are not meant to be told. They are made to be saved inside the chest, within the walls, within the pages that do not burn, and they remain there, waiting. For anyone who has the courage to listen, the day advances in silence. You no longer feel the urge to leave. There is no need to visit other rooms, nor to walk down the road, nor to ask anyone about the past of that place. Everything you need is here. Everything you're looking for, even what you didn't know you were looking for, seems to be born, little by little, within these walls. But today, there is something different in the air. A faint feeling, like when rain is about to fall. But the sky still hesitates, a silent invitation hovering in the air. You are sitting on the edge of your bed, like so many other mornings, with your diary in hand. But he can't write, not today. Today, what catches your attention is space, the room itself, the limits he imposes, the promises he seems to keep, behind the obvious. You walk to the wall where you first found the diary, the wall that, over the days, transformed from simple brick and plaster into something more, a border, or maybe a bridge. You touch the cold surface, and now you see clearly. There is echo, not a sound, but one resonance, as if the space behind the wall wasn't solid, as if there was something there. You press more firmly. There is a slight, almost imperceptible, vibration that runs through your fingers. You kneel down, examine the base of the wall, and then he notices something that, until now, had escaped his attention. A very subtle, almost imperceptible line at the bottom. A small, arch-shaped crack. If there were a sealed door, you don't feel fear, does not feel anxiety, just a steady calm, like someone walking towards something they already know they will find. You pick up the screwdriver you found in the closet days ago, an item forgotten by someone who may have also been trying to understand the room. And he begins, carefully, to remove the loose boards from the skirting board. The wood gives way without resistance. Behind her, a thin layer of bricks, but there, in the center, a hollow space. You remove the fragments with your hands. The dust rises, light. The smell is of old wood, damp stone, and something indefinable, a smell that reminds time saved. After a few minutes of delicate work, an opening reveals itself. Small, dark, silent. You turn on the flashlight on your cell phone. The light invades the space carefully, revealing a hidden room. It's narrow, the size of a large closet. The floor is made of aged wood. The walls are bare, no paper, just concrete, and in the center, There is a chair. Simple, made of wood, facing the broken mirror stuck on the opposite wall. You come closer. Calm breathing, the calm pulse. There's nothing threatening there. On the contrary, that little space looks like, wait for someone. You come in and sit down. The chair creaks softly under his weight. The mirror in front of you is cracked, but it still reflects. You see your face, but he also sees something else. In the central crack, between the shards still attached. To the frame, a second image, not exactly a reflection, but one trail, a pale shadow, a faint figure, like the memory of someone who has sat there before. You don't get scared. Just whisper, I know who you are. The shadow does not respond, but it approaches. Slowly, and then it dissolves. No rush, but with peace. You look to the corner of the room and sees a small object on the floor, a diary, smaller than the others, with simple cover, no brand. You get it. Volhaya, it is empty. You smile and understand. This diary is yours.